County work session meeting for December 18th, 2012. I would like to observe a moment of silence for the victims at the Sandy Hook Elementary School. Thank you. First on the agenda of the work session is approval of minutes for the December 4th, 2012 organizational meeting. Council?
I move we approve meetings minutes.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the December 4th, 2012 organizational meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You also have a copy in your books for the December 11th, 2012 work session meeting. Is there a motion for those minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next on your agenda is the legislative request update, and we have Al Wine, Acting Director of Administration. Mr. Wine?
Good morning, council members. As you know, we met with our delegation on December 6th and presented our legislative request for the 2013 session. We've taken the liberty to prepare a formal letter to Chairman Smeagol representing essentially two legislative requests. The first was the recommendation of the Board of License Commissioners to submit proposed legislation relating to permitting growlers to be filled and refilled at licensed establishments, from kegs of craft microbrewed beer for off-premise consumption. As you recall, we had a licensee attend the meeting on December 6th to explain the need for that legislation. And again, the Board of License Commissioners supports that request. Secondly, as was brought up at that meeting, Delegate Smeagol, Chairman of the delegation, asked that the board funnel proposed legislation for the Board of Education relating to the operation of school vehicles up to 15 years instead of the current 12 years. This would be an amendment to the education article of the annotated code to add Cecil County to that existing provision of law relating to the tenure of those vehicles, school vehicles. Mr. Capra, Mr. Willis, and they may have some other representatives representing the matter today. The board, if the council should have any questions.
I do. Did you have any? Did you want to come forward?
Here.
Good morning.
This is Mr. Kunda. He's the president of the Bus Contractors Association.
Good morning, Mr. Kunda. My question is this out of the ordinary? Is there a standard of 12 years being used? And what was the purpose behind it and the purpose behind you changing it to 15?
Originally, going back, I believe, 82 or 1983, 10 years was the standard. As equipment changed, safety measures got better, equipment got better, the state of Maryland instituted 12. Since then, nationally, that's become kind of the number 12. Multiple states even go 15 or 20 years now. And it all is in the increase of safety. The vehicles are built better, and you can order a bus to do the job, to extend it out beyond 12 years, properly maintained. These buses are inspected 4 times a year, not even including when the MVA comes and just does what they call a spot inspection. So most of our school buses, I would say, are inspected at least 5 to 6 times a year. The contractors in this county, maybe a little biased, but we do a really good job keeping these buses to a good standard. And I think if you ask MBA inspectors, they come here and find very little problems. The reports show that. Contractors do a great job. The Board of Education does a great job helping us do that. We have a good relationship with their head of maintenance, Dave Mallon, who does a great job of going to meetings and bringing information to us that, you know, MBA wants to change, and we make that change, and the relationship helps keep these buses to a good standard. So I don't see anything out of the ordinary at where the industry is headed to extend them beyond 12. And the benefit for here, again, in this county is we have such a good relationship with the Board of Education. We sit down at the table and can be seemingly miles apart, and we always come to a good resolution. Because at the end of the day, and I learned this from Henry Schaefer, I can't take credit for it. If it's good for kids, then you do. And I think when you talk an issue like this, there is a financial benefit for the health of the system. And I believe that safety-wise, implemented properly. We are still very much in discussions. We've made tremendous headway in how to implement this so that it works here in our county for us. I don't like the idea of the state just saying, go ahead and do this, because I think that keeps you kind of with a blank check. And again, our relationship is such that we can implement this so that it's beneficial for the contractors, it's beneficial for the Board of Education, and again, at the end of the day, if it's good for kids, then you do. And I think we can make this work so that it is good for the kids.
Well, yeah, if it makes sense, that, we're not having buses break down and the service is there, and that the cost savings is, you know, passed on. But I would make sure that there's some oversight. How would we be finding out if there was a problem?
Well, like I say, buses are inspected 4 times a year, and that's not just through independent, but that's by our own transportation department as well. So,
Just that if there's an increasing amount of bus breakdown?
well, actually, these folks track that, and we track that as well. We would be extending buses on a bus-by-bus basis. So if we had a bus that had a track record of high maintenance, we may not take that bus beyond the 12 years. We may decide to replace that bus as well. So, and certain buses have certain mileage, you know, beyond, and you know, beyond the normal, you know, field trip buses and that type of thing. So, we're looking at it on a case-by-case basis with the help of Mr. Kunda and the rest of the contractors. We believe we'll be able to identify the most significant cost savings without jeopardizing safety or service.
I can just give one, well, I think this is a really good example. Currently, you know, based on the size of the fleet and where we're at, all contractors, by contract, are required to have a spare bus. This is negotiated between us and the board. Perfect example would be a fleet of my size, and there are several other. When you only have 10 buses, that's 9 route buses and that spare. If you have a bus that is coming to its end of its 11th school year, and you do not have a replacement to fill the gap for that spare, what now has to happen is the board has to replace a bus essentially early. So you have a bus that Mr. Capper's put in the budget that he is going to run for 12 years. Well, at the end of the 11th year, we come to find that there's not a spare, because it's going, under the current way we work, 13th year is what's labeled by the state as a breakdown spare. That bus can only be used to haul school children for public schools in the event of a breakdown. That does not give any flexibility in the system as far as having a spare available to do extracurricular activities. If you were to have, let's say, a contractor would have a catastrophic failure or an act of vandalism where his fleet is, you know, maybe 3 buses are vandalized every night, and we physically don't have, we need to have buses to go fill that void for everybody. What this essentially does is this allows us to run all of our route buses for 12 years and take a bus, let's say this year is in its 12th year now, running as a spare. We could extend it to its 13th or 14th year with being able to use it. It's a financial benefit to the utmost, is that now in the budget, one bus we know is going to get 12 years or beyond for route service. And that spare piece of equipment it is not confined to what the state classifies as a breakdown spare. They consider it a route spare, which can be used just like a regular bus. It's maintained like a regular bus. It can be used to do anything that the contractor or the Board of Education needs that bus to do. And that alone is huge from a financial standpoint, you're getting the most out of your investment. You're truly getting your return on your investment when you purchase that bus today. You know it's going to be there for 12 years. That alone is tremendous savings.
Mr. Willis or Mr. Kunda, can you tell me what the average mileage that you might put on a bus? Just, I know that they vary, but what's the average on a yearly basis? And what's the average when you turn them in?
Again, and this is another benefit of doing this. If you're taking a group of buses, let's say in the Northeast, Perryville, Elton area, that bus might run 12 years, and at the end of 12 years, that bus might literally may only have 170 or 180,000 miles on it. That piece of equipment is at 170 or 180,000 miles, still in really good shape.
Just broke in.
Yeah, I send buses out of service because of where I am down south, south of the canal. I've had buses with 350,000 miles on them at the end of their life.
And my car just turned over 300,000 today. I pulled over to the side of the road and took a picture.
Well,
So I'm gonna get my girl badge for my Mercedes, 300,000.
It's a perfect example of if you take care of it, it'll take care of you.
Yeah.
And in the instance of buses, it's not an option. You're hauling people's children. They're
And they're
depending on
using
you to make the right decision and that bus is safe. And I assure you that we run a really good maintenance program in this county. They're safe.
But bottom line, this is a cost savings to the schools without impacting safety for the children.
Yes, I believe we can implement it and achieve just that.
It allows them to have the spare, gives them some buffer room. Yeah.
I guess this would be a question maybe for Al or Vicki. I noticed in the letter to the delegation, it mentions a narrative that reflects the cost savings and impacts. Was that in our packet here this morning, or I was hoping to see something a little more substantive about?
Yeah, I thought I included a memorandum from Mr. Wells, and I can get you a copy of that.
Yeah, I was hoping to maybe see some numbers on this. But I guess my other question is, I think this is, the 15 years is currently in effect in, is it 9 counties? How is that working out, as far as insurance rates, and have they seen any problems down there as far as, this, or?
As far as we know, it's working out fine. And some of it, and they all do it differently. St. Mary's last year had the same amendment to add them to 15 years, but they actually were already doing 15 years. They were operating under waivers, so every year they had to go get waivers for all of their buses, but they were actually running them all for 15 years.
And that was through the superintendent. I think I'd seen you in the letter, you'd mentioned that process, right?
Correct.
How
Yes,
you
you can ask for an individual waiver on a bus, but then then you have to do additional inspections, and it's more costly. So St. Mary's asked to be added to the list to automatically go with 15 years. Also, Charles was added to the list last year. And again, to echo what Mr. Kunda said, and the reason why we didn't spell out any numbers was because we don't know how this is going to work out. We know it'll be a cost. If we do it for one bus, it'll be a cost savings. But we want to be able to do it on an individual basis, to look at each bus when it comes to the end of its life, and when it comes to the 12 years, whether we're going to be able to extend it or not. So we're kind of leery about putting any hard numbers on it. Plus, we have to work out some of the details of how the contractors are going to be paid for those buses. So we were reluctant to specify any details, financial details.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the council on anything else in the letter?
In the letter? Yeah, there were some other items. I think we're
you done?
this school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
I move that we approve the language in the letter and move it forward to the state.
motion on the floor to approve the letter and to move it forward to the state. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second, open for discussion.
I would request that, we have an amendment to that motion with the addition after, the third paragraph, no, the fourth paragraph, after the sentence, with respect to concerns raised regarding interstate drug prescription monitoring and other drug-related matters, we appreciate your willingness to assist us with attacking this problem area in our county. More specifically, we would request that you, that the delegation draft a stricter state.
What letter do you want?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was
What about
the,
school buses?
was this on, it's not on the legislative letter?
Legislative request.
It's on the legislative
Yeah.
request letter.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm referring to.
It's on the fourth, it's in the fourth paragraph of the legislation request letter.
I had 3 hours of sleep, so I might, might be wrong. This one I wasn't. Okay, so, I'm requesting that we add language to, request that the delegation draft, state regulations, that make it more, complete in urinalysis tests, that they test specifically, for cocaine and other drugs, not just for opiates. That a clean test would mean the exclusion of those drugs, as well as the inclusion of, the current level 1 outpatient treatment program requires, counselors, 50 to 1. I would request that the counselors be 40 to 1 to be consistent. The method and clinics would be consistent with level 1 outpatient treatment programs of 40 to 1. And, okay, those were the 2 that I wanted to include. And we've talked about this in the past, Councilman Hodge, that, we need to do all we can to have, stricter regulations in the county to address their drug problem. I think this is a good start. And we've had upstairs meetings specifically about these, requests. Would you consider amending your motion, and if not, why?
Councilman.
First of all, I think what you're proposing are regulations, not laws. They're not, it's not legislation. I think what you're proposing is regulation that one of the departments would consider. And I'm not sure that our legislators can influence the regulations within departments.
Delegate Schmiegel had said that, for this to move forward, needed to have a motion, passed by the council to move forward, to have the support.
Your issues, I don't really have a problem with it, and if you want to modify the letter and we'll read it.
Okay. Al, could you draft something including that?
Yeah, I'll need some more information from you.
I'll forward that to you.
We can do that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, to, approve with amendments. Is there a second to the addition?
Is that my?
Yeah, you made, Commissioner Hodge made, Councilman Hodge made a motion, he accepted your amendment to the motion.
So I'll second that?
There's a motion and a second on the
No,
floor.
you made the motion for the amendments. I'll
Yes.
second your amendment.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All good?
I don't even know what we're talking about.
Sorry. This is an amendment to the letter, we had talked about the letter. They came up and explained the Cecil County Public Schools proposing
I thought we were
legislation.
talking about school buses.
Yes, that was part of the letter.
All right, why don't we take one issue at a time? Would it not be sensible? Excuse me for my ignorance, I thought we were discussing school buses and not this last paragraph. The last paragraph talks about during the TMDL thing. I did not even notice your interstate drug prescription thing. It would seem to me, and only seemed to me, that basically we deal with one issue in its entirety at a time.
And Al, I would, if you were gonna redraft and add that, I would separate out, each issue separately in a
I
separate
agree,
paragraph.
that's fine with me.
Okay, moving on to the next, tax.
I just asked that the council provide.
We will.
That.
Language for that, to add it to the, and then we'll do another draft. Chair map briefing update, Mr. Wine and Eric Sandstrom, Director of Planning and Zoning.
Staff would like to, update the council on action that the county executive took yesterday relating to the tier map. As the council may be aware of, and Eric will get into more details, there is, an administrative adoption process, contained in the implementation guidance of Senate Bill 236. And yesterday, County Executive Moore took action to administratively approve a tier map for Cecil County. I have a press release, from the county executive and the tier map that she administratively approved, for your attention, and Eric, will also provide you with an overview of that action.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. As he has stated, the county executive took action to administratively adopt the tier map for Cecil County. Council may recall that in the last General Assembly session, the session of 2012, the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act of 2012, more commonly referred to as Senate Bill 236, was approved and became effective in July of this year. That bill required the counties to adopt a tier map by December 31st of this year in order to be able to continue to approve subdivisions in areas that do not have public sewer service available to them. The board is also, the council is also aware that numerous meetings have been held amongst the former Board of County Commissioners over the last 6 months, as well as a public hearing before the Planning Commission, as well as the former Board of County Commissioners. The implementation and guidance document, as Mr. Wine has stated, allows for a administrative adoption of a map by either the Director of Planning, the Chief Administrative Officer, or the Chief Elected Official of a jurisdiction. County Executive Moore decided that it would be in the best interest of Cecil County to send in a tier map by the December 31st deadline, thus initiating the action that has been taken. It's the feeling of the executive that this map does the least harm to Cecil County while still complying with the law. It will still afford individuals the choice of whether or not they want to seek to preserve their property or to seek development of that property. And it places into Tier 4 all those properties that are either publicly owned or that have previously sold their development rights or donated their development rights to entities such as the Maryland Environmental Trust. So with that, it has been administratively adopted, sent to the state. The next step for us would be to, if we receive any comments back from the Maryland Department of Planning, we would be required to hold a public meeting on those comments. And in our next 6-year review of our comprehensive plan, which in our case would be 2016, at that point we would be required to adopt the plan into our, or the map into our comprehensive plan. Yes, Mr. Wine has astutely reminded me that we did present this to the Planning Commission yesterday for their information as well, so they are aware of the action taken by the executive.
Mr. Centrum, is it true that we can amend this plan anytime we choose up until the time that it's incorporated into our comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Isn't it true that we could withdraw the map if we also chose to do that at a later date?
The county could potentially take action along those lines, but if a map is withdrawn, then the owner's restrictions contained within the bill would take effect.
Right, there are.
Quantitatively affect the citizens of Cecil County.
Right.
Unnecessarily.
Right. The lack of a map creates consequences that I believe were not worth, the benefit of a map of this sort, to me, gets us off the state's back to some level. Fact is that they're probably not going to be satisfied with this map and will be before the public with a public hearing as per the state law.
Well, remember, the comments are that they have no ability,
Right.
they being the state or the Maryland Department of Planning have no ability to approve or disapprove the map that the county sends to them. Their comments are non-binding. We're just required by Senate Bill 236 to hold a public hearing on those comments. Right. So you put whatever weight you choose to put into those comments, nothing more, nothing less.
And I believe that this is the best map to submit to be in compliance with the law without infringing on private property rights. And I'd also suggest that if other counties decide that they're going to proceed with no map, and we see that there will be some legal basis to support that no map, I would encourage the county council and the executive to jump on their bandwagon and move forward with that. But until such time as anyone can show any legal basis for non-compliance, I believe this is the best course of action.
Okay, Director Sundstrom, could you tell me once again, even if we adopt this map, how the property rights will be affected because of the additional restrictions that the Senate Bill 236 imposes?
Well, the map has been adopted by the executive, but if you're saying if no map was adopted, or?
Well, tell me how this map that the county executive chose to adopt on her own executively, bypassing the legislative right, how this affects property rights. Senate Bill 236, they're still, by participating in this process, tell me how it affects property rights.
Well, hopefully it will have a negligible, if no effect on property rights in the county. The reason I say that is because Tier 4 will be limited to those properties that are publicly owned or that have either sold their development rights to an entity such as Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, Eastern Shore Land Conservancy, Cecil Land Trust, or donated into some entity such as Maryland Environmental Trust. Tier 3 still permits subdivision to occur, whether it's minor or major. If an individual chooses to do a major subdivision in Tier 3, they have to do some additional, jump through some additional hurdles that they don't have to now. One is they have to do what I like to refer to as a cost-benefit analysis of that proposed subdivision to present to the Planning Commission to demonstrate what the anticipated costs versus revenue would be for the proposed development. And another is an enhanced environmental assessment showing how the impacts of that development will affect the environs surrounding the proposed subdivision. If an individual in Tier 3 chooses to pursue agricultural preservation, again, they would be free to do so under this map. It would not infringe on that decision as well. They would still be able to make application to the county, to the state, or to seek donation of their development rights to a entity such as MET. So from that perspective, it shouldn't infringe, hopefully, on anybody's rights, depending on what they choose as the best course of action for their property.
Well, that brings to mind the concern I had, that their definition of Tier 4 and Tier 3, the difference being that priority preservation areas were supposed to be Tier 4, and all of these are clearly Tier 3. So it doesn't reflect the spirit of the comprehensive plan that was newly adopted. And we're not sure about the repercussions of that. And I know, it's, we still don't know what the repercussions are going to be. The legislature could address that this session.
Yeah, Yes, as you heard from the delegation meeting last week, I believe it was, there is a great deal of uncertainty in some quarters of the General Assembly as to the next steps to take in reaction to this bill, and whether or not anything will come out of the 2013 session affecting this bill is yet to be known, obviously. We can't predict the future, but we have to operate under what we have currently in law. And the executive has decided that the best course of action for the citizens of Cecil County is to submit a map. And this map, as I said, does the least amount of harm to the landowners in the county, vis-a-vis the onerous and punitive restrictions contained within Senate Bill 236.
Well, the planning commission and I shared the same opinion that we needed to adopt a map that most closely reflects the comprehensive plan, and this one doesn't. So, I have objections.
Well, where do I start with this? Her Majesty once again determining what is in the best interest of Cecil County. I want the citizens to be clear, this is Terry Orr's map, okay? She is effectively bypassing the legislative body today and doing this administratively, and I just want that to be clear to the public out there that she is doing this on her own authority. And it was done in a very underhanded way. It wasn't even included in our packet for us to review here today. Now, I suspected that that's where this was going when I saw it on the agenda, but to do it yesterday afternoon, not even give us an attempt to look at this, just par for the course from what I've seen so far, so.
Does that mean you object to the map?
Just a little, yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Move on to the next item on your agenda, evening meeting agenda review. You have approval of minutes, your council comments, public comment, report from the treasurer, consideration of resolution 01-2012, which was introduced at your December 4th, 2012 meeting, and provided in your packet information is a follow-up from Economic Development Director Lisa Webb with questions that you had from the meeting on December 4th. And that is for your consideration this evening and vote. You have budget amendments on your schedule. The first one being from the Cecil County Public Schools.
Craig can run
Do
through
you want-
those for you.
Yeah.
Craig can just run through those.
Thank you.
Thank you. As indicated, the First Amendment on your agenda is from a request from Cecil County Public Schools requesting the approval to make the following changes to the fiscal 13 operating budget for the period of July, August, September, and October, recording additional revenues of $2,750,426, both revenue and expense, largely reflecting carryover balances from previous year's grant funding. This does not change the county's obligation or contribution to public schools. Second item was an amendment that was presented back on December 4, recovery funds, I believe, for the telephone account. I believe it had a particular reference associated with some GPS units. Mr. Flanagan here, I believe that amendment was tabled and it's still before you today. Scott.
Budget Amendment 51 proposes to move $7,700 from the Roads Division Surface Treatment Account to the Roads Division Telephone Account to pay for increased cost relative to the GPS units, as Craig mentioned. As you might recall, a couple of years back, the Department of Public Works fielded GPS location tracking devices on our fleet of vehicles. But at that time, we did not deploy them on the road mowers because they were due to be replaced. We have since replaced those, the mowing tractors used for roadside mowing, and have gone and installed GPS units on those. With that comes an increase in the operating cost, and what this proposes to do is to move funds from the surface treatment account into the telephone account, which is the account from which those GPS units are funded. We did not adequately estimate what the cost was going to be, and so find ourselves with a projected shortfall within that telephone account.
Am I correct? You said that you did put the GPS, you installed the systems into the mowers?
Yes.
So it's the
Monthly operating expense.
where's the expense coming from?
There is a, with the GPS units, there's two costs associated with those. One is the cost to actually install the unit, and then there is a monthly operating cost for the service, which tracks the location, which allows us to then view that through a website. It retains that data, historically.
I'd be interested to see what is the cost for the service. I didn't realize there was a,
Approximately $30 per month per unit.
how many units?
There's 6 roadside mowing tractors. I don't recall the total number on which we have these units installed.
And it's also for the trucks?
Yes, we had, as you might recall, in years past, I think this was first done in fiscal year 11, had gone and installed these units on our wheeled vehicle fleet throughout the Department of Public Works, pickup trucks, dump trucks, things like that. And then over time, we have deployed them on additional pieces of equipment in the fleet. And the latest iteration, as I indicated, is to deploy them on the roadside mowing fleet. The reason we didn't put them on the roadside mowing tractors back in fiscal year 11 when we first did this was that we were in the process of replacing that. We didn't want to put a unit on an old mowing tractor to then wash it out of the fleet, get a new one, and then have to pay to install it on the new one as well. We felt it more prudent to wait until the tractors were replaced to go ahead and install it.
Director Flanagan, for the benefit of the council members that weren't here when you asked us to approve the GPS units in the vehicles before, and the public, could you give us a refresher on why you believe that the GPS units are cost effective and what the purpose is that benefits the citizens and your management of the department?
Sure. This is an initiative which we are have adopted after having watched multiple private fleet operators, for example, Federal Express, United Parcel Service, trucking companies that operate private fleets have fielded these units on their fleets and have concluded that they yield significant cost savings, and then we've concluded that it was a good management tool and we ought to do that within our fleet as well. What the system does is to allow supervisors and managers throughout the department to know where their assets are at any one time. What the units do is track the location of vehicles and other pieces of equipment that are outfitted with these, and allows us to look at that through a website application. And experience has shown through the private sector fleet operators which have used these is that it is a cost-saving measure, that it reduces vehicle abuse or misuse. It reduces the miles driven, which in turn translates into fuel savings, reduced repair costs. It extends the useful life of the vehicles. allows them to remain in the fleet longer before they need to be replaced. It also has, it aids, for example, in snow removal operations to be able to have visibility on where the fleets or where the plows are at any one time so that they can be directed to any problem areas more efficiently.
This is another reason I would like to have an in-house auditor. A good example of needing someone to research. You talked about private sector fleet, that they've seen a cost reduction and it's more efficient. Well, my question is, at how many vehicles was it that it was beneficial? And I'd like to know how many vehicles we currently have them on, and it's a $30 per cost service fee for each vehicle. How many other public governments in the state are using this way, the GPS to monitor their assets?
I guess I would submit that this, you know, there's the perception that government oftentimes is, you know, inefficient. This is and that we need to be more business-like. This is an effort by us, and I believe to operate our fleet in a more business-like fashion, to adopt best management practices that are used by private fleet operators.
Well, I can understand that, and it could be understood that way, or it could be seen as an investment that doesn't yield the cost savings for the if our fleet isn't big enough.
I would have to say that my opinion is it'll work for one truck or 100 trucks, and you multiply the advantage of one times. It's not a matter of the size of the fleet. If you've got one vehicle, whether it's a tractor or a truck, and there's benefits derived from that, you can multiply that times any size fleet that you have. I don't think that that's an issue. And I think this whole debate about the GPS units was fully debated at a previous time. And generally, I believe unanimously bought into by everyone at that time, and we moved forward with it. And we decided to spend the money, and we did. And we decided to put units in all the vehicles, and I think Scott Flanagan has explained to us why some were not done, because we replaced them. And it wasn't cost effective to put GPS units into tractors that we were going to trade in and get rid of. So I'm not sure why we're spending so much time re-evaluating something that was previously decided.
May I make a comment? It seems to me that this costs less than $1 per day per piece of equipment. Is that correct?
For the operating cost, yes.
Now, it saves us on equipment, it saves us on gas, and I'm also certain that you can probably get a very good idea who is doing the work for your roads department and who's not. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes, but I think I would like to make the point that, you know, the motivation of this is not born out of some suspicion that, you know, county employees are not doing the right thing out there. That's not the motivator.
No, I understand that's not the motivator, but you would be able to see that a piece of equipment was not parked for 5 hours on location.
Yes, another example is idle time. These systems allow us to see cases where vehicles are parked in one location with the engine running idling. And sometimes there is a valid reason for that, but oftentimes there's not. Okay. And so this has allowed us to print out, we can print out a report that identifies how long vehicles have been idling, and has allowed us to focus in on that and implement our anti-idling policy, which saves engine wear and tear, saves fuel, reduces air pollution from emissions. So that's one example of a practical use for this system that has allowed us to identify operators who have a habit of just parking in one place and allowing their vehicle to idle if, for example, they are out inspecting something or repairing something.
Now, here's the question. In your professional view, do you think this is a cost-effective procedure?
Yes.
Number two, if you ran this government, would you reinstitute it? If you were in our positions, would you continue this program?
Yes.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Well, Director Flanagan, I remember when this came up before, and I remember the costs, or the GPS systems for the trucks. I don't know if we ever got a real number of the extent of, how many it was going to be implemented. And I don't remember that there was a $30 charge per vehicle for services. All I'm trying to do is to get the real costs. And, I guess that's basically it. If you could provide that information to me, I would greatly appreciate it. I certainly see the benefit of this, but I want to see the real costs. And in the case of FedEx and United Parcel Service, they are huge operations. And at some point, it wouldn't benefit a smaller operation to do something like this. And do you know how many other counties are implementing these GPS systems? And
Many public agencies throughout the country use this. Cecil County is not on the forefront. In fact, I would say we are lagging in our implementation of this.
Well, that reassures me. What about in the state of Maryland?
Not everyone uses them. Some do, some don't.
Okay. Any way you could provide how many? Is there any way to find out quickly or?
Well, I guess that would probably require a poll of all 23 counties within the state of Maryland. I don't believe there's a database anywhere that's going to tell me that.
But okay. But it's just the real numbers of the cost. There's just, and the last time that this was introduced, we were told that it was GPS systems going on the tractors, not it was the service fee related to that. So just wanting to have the real information. Thank you.
If I might bring you some perspective, to basically lease this equipment for 10 years would be $3,600. That's $30 a month times 12 times 10. Now, if you look at the price of a dump truck, which probably easily exceeds $100,000, you're looking at less than 0.3% to basically use this equipment, to monitor this equipment, to basically reduce expenses, reduce emissions, reduce gas consumption for 0.3% for 10 years. I think this is a phenomenal savings to the county.
Would you like to have the real information?
Not only to know that you can monitor where the equipment is and basically relocate it to other convenient locations because you know where it already is.
Councilman McCarthy, do you object to me getting the real information that I've requested?
You can get anything that you like, Councilman Brunel.
Thank you. We agree.
Mr. White.
The next amendment, identified as number 53, is to appropriate a budget for a grant awarded to the Department of Emergency Services in the amount of $29,949 for a server replacement for the 911 center. This is a grant from the State Numbers Board. Next item, also to record a grant from the Numbers Board in the amount of $6,778 awarded to the Department of Emergency Services for a security system to back up the county's backup PSAP or public safety answering point, or backup 911. The next item is appropriating a budget for the grant awarded to the Department of Emergency Services for an aerial survey of the entire Eastern Shore region. Cecil County is serving as the project sponsor, so the ENSB, the Numbers Board, may benefit from economies of scale associated with doing one flyover of the entire region. essentially what that $838,519 represents the cost to do the aerial for all of the counties on the Eastern Shore, not just Cecil County. Every time they do this, one of the counties has to be the sponsor. In this case, it was us. So the dollars will flow through us, and we'll basically pick up the tab. Of course, the county's not responsible for any expenses associated with this. We just we're the parent, essentially. Mr. Black is available for any additional commentary or questions that you may have about the aerial photography.
Dave, why don't you go ahead and give an overview of
Certainly. The first one, budget amendment number 53, is the $29,949 one. That's to replace 2 servers that operate over the Department of Emergency Services right now. They operate the Geographic Information Systems database over there. There's a database server as well as a web server that provides 24/7, 365 access to our GIS database for our 911 responders, both at the PSAP there at 107 Chesapeake, as well as in the field. As part of that server replacement, we're also going to be upgrading our software, so we can be operating at the most current level of the software provided. The current system has been in place since 2008. We also received a grant for back in 2008. So thankfully we were able to obtain this second grant to replace those servers just about as they're about ready to exceed their 5-year lifetime. So that's budget amendment number 53. Budget amendment number 55 was also a grant from the Emergency Number Systems Board. That's in the amount of $838,519. That's for new aerial photography for the entire Eastern Shore. My colleagues and I on the Eastern Shore decided to team up and work together to obtain this grant to benefit the entire Eastern Shore. Cecil County, we're acting as the head agency on this. Without working together, we most likely would not have received this grant, but we'll be obtaining new aerial imagery for the entire Eastern Shore. As part of this, the last time we had comprehensive aerial photos done that satisfied the requirements of 901 was in 2010. So planes will be up in the air between February 10th, 2013 and March 10th, 2013. They have 60 days to get 10 full days of flights done, so hopefully the weather will be cooperative for that. Hopefully there's no snow on the ground, so cross your fingers for that. If there's any questions the council has, I'd be more than willing to answer them.
Mr. Black, have you kept in mind too that you can go to the Upper Shore Regional Council for possibly pursuing grants in the regional area of the Eastern Shore as well? Why don't we keep that in mind? I know that we're currently having problems with our 911 system. This has nothing to do with that, correct?
No, ma'am. I serve as a mapping
Right.
systems professional for over there as well as in this building. So this is strictly for the mapping. It's not for response or anything like that. This is strictly for the mapping for when calls come in, for their able to see where those calls are physically located, and then response to that is a separate vendor.
Mr. Black, do you know when the last time aerial mapping was done in Cecil County?
Last time, sir, was in the spring of 2010, about February 2010.
And will this information be shared not only with emergency services, but with planning and Department of Public Works and other county agencies?
Yes, sir. We're going to make it available to anyone within the county and anyone who has an external hard drive large enough. We're making it publicly available to anyone, surveyors, business folks, anyone who might want a copy. Same thing that we did with the 2010. Yes, sir.
And can you tell me the difference what Google mapping would be versus this, or is it the same?
It's a little differently. Recently, Bing just came out. Bing is one of the partners with Google Earth and Google Maps. They came out with some new aerial photography for Cecil County. It was done in about 2011. They did full leaf on photography, which isn't good for emergency response because you can't see through the trees. They also did photography at 2 different times. You can actually see the split. If you're on Google Earth, take a look at Red Toad Road about where Goose Barn and Windsor Church go, and you'll see one was taken in the fall
different time periods, so it's for consistency's sake, for seeing the entire county at one point. You need one overall image that wasn't done at different points in time. The resolution that we're doing too is a 6-inch pixel resolution. That means that you'll be able to see manholes on manholes are typically 2 feet in diameter. So anything that's 6 inches or larger, you'll be able to see in 1 pixel. The Google Earth imagery is usually about 2-foot resolution, so it's slightly 4 times more degraded than the 6-inch imagery.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Next budget amendment is to remove the county pay-go budget on the upgrade green waste project and to replace that budget with bond funding that's been available for the completed cell 4 redevelopment project. It's merely a funding switch. We have available bond funding left over. Reverts the pay-go back to the budget in the landfill project, substitutes it with bond funding. It also removes pay-go funds from the completed leachate management system project, returns that to the solid waste enterprise fund balance. The next item is for law enforcement, is to record a $1,500 grant for tobacco prevention for fiscal 13. Essentially what that's intended to do is to ensure that minors are unable to gain tobacco in our stores within the confines of the county. Next item is Parks and Recreation. It's appropriating additional program open space grant funds to be used for acquisition and development projects. The fiscal 13 budget prepared utilizing an estimate. So it records $149,954 of POS money that could be utilized for land acquisition, although we record that, doesn't necessarily have anything out there that we're intending to do. The $72,741 is on the development side. We're intending to use that for our Conway Park project. Mr. Van Dyke here to answer any questions that may arise.
The $72,741 for the CFA grant expenses, is there a time limit on that money, or is that can be put into reserve for future use?
Councilman Hodge, the $72,741 is additional development money we're planning to use for the final phase of the Conway project. We anticipate breaking ground on that project July 2013, finishing by mid-fall of 2013. That part will be complete in its development.
Right. The balance of the money?
Correct.
The balance of the grant, isn't it equally spent for, isn't there 2 amounts of money? One for development, one for future acquisition?
The $149,954 is for land acquisition.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Currently, we have nothing on the record
I
that
got it. The 149, is there a time limit on the use of that money?
currently no, but the governors, we always get updates and mandates when the governor looking to take money back that hasn't been spent. Typically, that is kept in reserve for when an acquisition project for the county becomes available, the money's there for us to utilize.
Thank you.
Director Van Dyke, the 4th phase of Conway Park, what did that entail? Was it another field?
Last phase that we're getting ready to hopefully complete in mid-2013 is 2 baseball fields, another parking lot, additional stormwater management, and an outflow pipe to the river, and road improvements.
Okay. And are we keeping up with the parking?
Yes. And Conway, this phase 2, or the last phase of this project, will include an additional parking lot.
And this project, open space money, could it be used for acquisition of a parking lot near Bar Cameron?
The 292 we have in reserve could, if we can find a seller who is willing to sell us his property within the boundaries that POS has mandated, which is, we have to take 2 appraisals from state-approved appraisers, take the average. There's really no negotiation with the property owner, whatever those 2 appraisals come back is the average, and that's what we can offer for that land.
Would it be our top priority to do that first, or what would you anticipate this open space money being spent on?
The acquisition money, yes, that it has been and is still our top priority is to take care or rectify the parking situation in Park Karen. To date, we have yet to find a property owner who is, again, willing to sell at the price that appraisals will come back at.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dyke. The last item identified as budget amendment number 59, also for Parks and Recreation, is to allocate funding to cover the cost of a new heat pump at the Cecil Arena. Merely moving from expense item to expense item, $5,305 within the confines of the Parks and Rec fund to provide that heat pump. Thank you.
That concludes the legislative agenda review. Next on the work session agenda is meeting decorum. Councilwoman Brunel.
Well, after researching this, Robert's rules basically state that if we're to adopt any rules for decorum, it usually is included in our rules of procedure. So it's going to be, short and sweet today. Just wanted to make sure, Councilman Hodge, are you okay with us reviewing certain rules to include in our rules of procedure? How does the board feel about that?
I want to be very cautious about infringing upon the public's right to come here and speak their mind. And I want to be very cautious, and will I, again, if you want to throw something on the table for consideration, I encourage you to do that.
I wanted to make sure that you understood that it wasn't going to be anything out of Robert's rules because of the manner in which the quorum rules were adopted. And once again, this is something that the public has brought to our attention as well, that they requested that rules be put into place because of some of the behavior commissioners. So I will go ahead and draft up proposals. If you have anything that you wanted to add, you think is realistic, want to see those. That's all I have.
Next on the agenda is discussion appointment to District 2 Council seat. That is also Councilwoman Brunel.
And previously I had contacted our attorney requesting that he advise the council on how they're supposed to operate for selecting a replacement or vacancy on the council. And his response was, let's get that right. In response to your email of December 13th, 2012, it is my understanding that the council voted 2-2 to seek an opinion, and I do not feel comfortable in rendering a legal opinion to the council unless requested by a majority of the members presently seated. I would add, though, that for your reference, the charter is the controlling document. Okay. We received 3 names from the Republican Central Committee. And I would state that the charter addresses vacancies for the council in section 209. And under item C, it states, when succeeding a party member, the appointee shall be selected from a list of 3 persons submitted to the council by the county central committee of the political party affiliated with the person vacating office, provided the list is submitted within 30 days from the date a vacancy occurs. If no such list is submitted within 30 days, or if the council member vacating office is not a member of a political party, the council shall appoint the person it deems best qualified to hold office regardless of his or her party affiliation, if any, provided the appointee meets the qualifications and residency requirements provided in subsection B of this section. So my concern is, this raises a few questions, which we should at the very least seek an attorney's opinion or an attorney general's opinion. Number one, was it proper for Terry Moore to switch her party affiliation right after she was elected as county executive as a Republican for the specific purpose of limiting the council or herself in case of a tie on the council to the three names nominated by the Republican Central Committee? The Republican Central Committee was elected by the voters and entrusted with the job of recruiting candidates and also filling the vacant Republican positions. Was it proper for her to divert the democratic process? Number two, in section 209, item B, last sentence, the appointee shall meet the same qualifications and residence requirements, and when succeeding a party member shall be a member of the same political party as the person who vacated office. Now, it's my understanding that there were two members of the charter board who have admitted that this clause was never intended to be used in the manner in which Ms. Moore did. Does this hold any relevancy to challenge in court? Number three, if we received a direction from any of the attorneys that it was proper for the newly elected county executive to switch her party, and we consider names regardless of party affiliation, how many names do we consider? How long do we have to consider and discuss? In the event of a tie, can the newly elected county executive select a name that was not considered by the council, or can she just select a name not even on the list from the council? Would the council be willing to seek an opinion on any of these issues, or does the council believe it's not in the county's best interest to find out what the proper direction is? There are many that feel they have been tricked by our newly elected county executive's last-minute switch. A consideration which I would propose is that there may be a name being offered by the Republican Central Committee you may be willing to consider. If we could come to an understanding with one of these three names, we could fill the vacancy and get down to business right away on a number of county issues. Would you be willing to go into closed session, because it is a personnel matter, to discuss the names that have been forwarded by the Republican Central Committee? If not, why? And have you received a legal opinion? Well, the first question is, can we seek answers to the first three questions? Either Attorney General's opinion or our attorney's opinion. Would you be in favor of that? That is a motion to seek our attorney's opinion on these three questions.
There's a motion on the floor to seek an attorney's opinion on the three questions stated by Councilwoman Brunel. Is there a second?
Did you say an opinion for us to solicit an attorney or to use our attorney?
Yeah, we do not have an attorney at this time for the council.
Mr. Wilson is not an attorney?
Well,
That's
we have an
a question.
expression of interest out for a specific council attorney.
Well, no, that is a question though, Attorney Wilson has a contract with the county. When does that expire?
I think.
May I use my own attorney?
For you, state that. I am doing this because I was asked by, Springerman and also by, County Executive Moore to come here and sit, and also some of the council members. I am trying to fill in to help, but do I have a contract with the county? Not this time, because my contract, let me finish. The last contract I think I had was in 2008. And I've been operating since then. Now, maybe on a month-to-month, how about that? I also, that was under the Commissioner of Foreign Government too. This is a charter.
Exactly.
So.
Well, that was the question I had. So you were operating on a month-to-month. The beginning of December, you were not, in your opinion?
December 3rd, I have not been asked to continue as county attorney.
Okay, so in your opinion, your legal opinion, you don't have a contract with the county that's, in force? Okay.
I'm doing this, maybe just call this practice.
Well, then you really shouldn't be giving us an opinion unless we've agreed to
Well-
seek your opinion.
Exactly.
That's the first step, is that this
You
council
don't have any-
board,
Huh?
the first step would be that this council board would agree to seek your opinion on these questions?
You can do that as long as the majority yes, yeah.
Okay. So that's my first motion.
Well, I have a question.
Well,
Let me-
that's the motion.
Second and then discussion.
Okay.
I have a first and a second. Your motion is just to seek an opinion from Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
If Mr. Wilson gives his opinion, and will you agree to abide by his opinion regardless of his opinion?
Have I heard that in the past?
Without further discussion, without further move on, yes or no?
Councilman Hodge, have I done that in the past?
No,
I've
you've
used
always
it.
tried to seek out the opinions of multiple attorneys until you have found the opinion that you like.
Oh, no. Mr. Hodge, your memory is very selective. I've been correct on things that I have challenged, Mr. Wilson.
You know, I'm talking about other attorneys also. You've had a difference of opinion of many different attorneys' opinions.
There's one attorney that we all agree
How about
with,
Larry
Mr.
Hastings?
Freeman. Oh,
Can we
Mr.
stay on topic, please?
Right.
Can we
You're-
please
Bottom-
stay on
bottom
topic?
line-
The motion on the floor is to seek an opinion from Mr. Wilson, and there is a second to the motion.
If the motioner and the seconder will agree to abide by the final opinion of Mr. Wilson, I'll go along with it. If I hear that they will not go along with it, that they will continue to raise issues and questions, then there's no point.
Mr. Hodge, I have to have some parameter to operate under. If Mr. Wilson provides his opinion, I need to know what he's basing his opinion on, in case there is an opportunity that this could be appealed at a later date. I know that I'm bound by that direction, but I will state for the record why I would object, but then we would move on.
Commissioner Councilwoman, excuse me. Well, it seems to me that in the questions you're asking and what have you, you probably should seek an opinion of your own attorney, not the council's attorney, to answer those questions if you're thinking about appeal or whether or not Executive Moore is qualified or not qualified, what you did, what you did. Maybe you should seek your own attorney to give you an opinion or to represent you individually if you pertain to challenges.
Attorney
This
Wilson?
doesn't sound like the council person or the council's opinion that you're seeking. And
No, I understand what I'm doing. The council, those are my options. I understand that. The council has to have an opinion from an attorney as to how to move forward. Correct?
well, I think yes, but the charter is pretty explicit.
Well, I had a number of questions that it wasn't explicit on. Would you agree on that? It doesn't?
Then you should vote. I can't tell you that vote. I can't tell you where you're gonna come back and say, oh, no, I don't like Norman's opinion. But nevertheless, you all gotta vote as a majority. I cannot make that change. You're all
All
elected officials.
all I'm looking to get from you is why, you're saying that, what your objective, what your opinion is as to how we're supposed to proceed and why.
I can do that. That's not a problem.
Okay, that's what I'm.
So we're in agreement that we will allow Mr. Wilson to, we're not in agreement with any of this.
Discussing the options.
Still in discussion.
What is the downside, Robert, to hearing his opinion on those issues?
I don't think it'll end. I don't think you will be satisfied with his opinion. And we're just spending his time and money moving the ball nowhere.
I don't know if it will end there, but I need to keep my options open.
Well, you
How do we know?
You can keep your options open.
Okay, but we need to do this to move forward as well.
If Mr. Wilson was to give his opinion, would you accept his opinion?
No.
I'm asking a question, I didn't ask you, Mr. Hodge. Yes or no, this is, or would you accept his opinion? And basically put this to rest, be it yea or nay.
Well, as I stated before, Councilman McCarthy, I need to keep my options open.
Well, then let's just pass this,
Can I-
we're wasting time,
No,
okay?
Mr. McCarthy, can I explain why? I have people out there that are very upset with what happened, and they feel that it was unfair. I don't know, hold on.
I'm very upset that we're sitting here doing this.
Can I finish my,
Yeah, please be brief and to the point.
Did you exercise some control? Just like you did a few minutes ago, I know you can do it. Okay, so McCarthy,
We've burned up 3 GPSs in the last 10 minutes.
Please stay on topic. Please.